Well, good morning, everyone. It is exactly 9:30, more or less exactly. I have a couple of engineers here that'll correct me. December 19th, 2018, East River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors meeting. We'll start with an invocation by Commissioner Langford.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you this morning, and Lord, we just ask for wisdom and guidance today as we conduct the business of this water authority. Lord, we just ask that you just give us everything that we need to make the right decisions. Lord, for our end users and for those that we serve, Lord, we just ask that you help us to do the right thing. Be with the men and women, dear Heavenly Father, that serve us and protect us. We ask you to keep your hand of protection upon those. And Lord, be with all those that are going to be away from their families, serving us, dear Heavenly Father, during these holiday times that are coming up. We know that this is a time of the year that everybody likes to be with family, and we got those that give sacrifices to keep us safe that's not going to be with their family. Lord, we just lift them up to you. We pray now that all of us have traveling graces during this season, Lord, that you take us to and from, and bring us all back together at the end of the beginning of the new year. We ask all these things now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. The pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with, welcome everyone. We don't have any electeds that we got to call out. We do see some representatives, and I'm pleased to say that a Sarasota County Representative, George McFarland, found his way here this morning. Good job, George. I couldn't resist, I'm sorry. With that, I have no public speaker cards. So before we get into anything further in the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mance.
Good morning. So you know from the agenda that today's topic is the proposed settlement agreement, and the settlement agreement includes a copy of a revised permit which will, in effect, while we describe the process, will dismiss all the protests that have been filed against our permit and issue the permit for 50 years at the same amount that it was initially proposed for, with the provision in there that allows, if Polk County Cooperative comes online with a withdrawal for the Peace Creek or the Peace River within the next 10 years, for them to be able to have our permit, our maximum day, reduced for up to 48 MGD, whatever the district determines up to that amount, a reduction would be necessary to offset the potential impacts of their withdrawals further upstream in the upper Peace River or Peace Creek. It's the 8 points of agreement, which is a one-page document. I know we're lawyers, so we can't help ourselves. It's now a 25-page document, but 7 pages that are signature pages, so you can't blame us for that. And another 3 or 4 pages are standard provisions. We've had a lot of good discussions going back and forth across the aisle with the other attorneys who have been very hard to be able to settle the case. And as you know, the same settlement is before the Polk County Cooperative this afternoon at 2 p.m. for consideration and vote for them as well. Mr. Chairman, did you say we had speaker cards?
No, sir.
Oh, we have. Okay. So what I was going to do is walk through, we went through the points of agreement, and I'll be glad to answer your questions as well. But we had 1 or 2 minor differences from the points of agreement. In the points of agreement, we agreed to an 8-year time frame for them to get a permit. In the discussions that we had, due to the infancy of some of the projects, meaning that they still have to do a lot of engineering and conceptual design and some feasibility studies, that they're not expecting that they'll have the permit in a very tight time frame. So they're looking out to say, well, what if we put it in and we modify the design? They wanted to have an additional 7 years. I agreed to an additional 2 years. I recommend that to you. The difference between 8 and 10 years and this permit condition didn't seem to, I didn't feel would make much of a difference. And it was the only thing that was really given as far as a negotiation standpoint in the agreement, different from what we had in the 8 points of agreement. So I feel strongly that the settlement resolves the issue the way we discussed it before by providing for this, I'll call it contingency, that if they have a permit that authorizes a withdrawal within the next 10 years, or 10 years from the date of our permit, then there'll be the ability for the district to determine how much of an offset would need to happen from our maximum day withdrawal. Once we're notified of that, then the authority would have to file a letter modification to the district within 30 days, requesting that our maximum day quantity be reduced by whatever that amount is that the district determined, up to 48 mgd. We did analysis, as we discussed in the last meeting, with our modelers and with our in-house people, Kevin, about, could we make the amount of water that we need with a 210 mgd withdrawal max day? And the answer was yes. And we still made it with our 95% reliability on water quality and 99.5% for water quantity. So, and those are the parameters we have in our existing permit. We want to continue those targets in the future, and we found that those numbers work. So I think it's a good recommendation. How it's structured is that there's a lot of people involved. So it's going to be approved by the full co-op, we hope, this afternoon when they vote. But then they need to have it approved by the other 6 litigants that were involved in the case. So then, because a lot of those are smaller cities and the holidays are upon us, a lot of them won't conclude having their next meetings until January 15th. So the theory is, from our strategy, was we'd approve it if the board does so this morning, then full co-op approves it this afternoon, then it'll be circulated to the other municipalities, and they'll bring it to their boards. By around January 15th, we expect to have a fully executed settlement agreement. The entire settlement is recorded on a water district, in the format that's just, there's a change, and you see that in the settlement, to we added a special condition 17, which is this one we were just talking about. We've also made some slight modifications to some asterisks that were on the first part of the page, just clarifying for the parties and frankly for us exactly what the annual average quantity is and the other issue. So I feel like we have a great permit. We're not doing this without running it by the district. I spoke to and then ran the language made by their general counsel and their litigant attorney, Chris Tominia, and they reviewed the language and provided me some suggested changes which we incorporated into the agreement. And so we think we have something. Of course, the permit has to be approved by the board, not staff, just like with you all. So we've got to take that back before. The entire settlement is contingent on the governing board approving the permit for issuance and issuing the final order consistent with the settlement. So it's all going to be executed by all us, but it won't be effective until the board, on the day the board issues their final order, which we're looking at putting that on the board meeting for February 26th. Because, by the time we get it all signed by everybody, it's the 15th, that would just allow for 2 weeks, and they're like, all of you and like us, they like to have time to get things on the agenda and be able to provide it to people ahead of time, so we want to work it onto a normal agenda. There's 2 other things that aren't required by the settlement specifically that we're also working on, which is one that you know. One is an interlocal agreement going forward with a cooperative, and possibly the city of Lakeland as well. And the idea was, to keep this from happening, and we have this in the 8 points of agreement, we want to have a closer working relationship with anyone who would potentially, cooperative in particular, regional water supply authority on the Peace River. So the thinking is the benefits we could receive from this. I know right now in the settlement, we're all looking at, these people were against us, but as a water supplier on the Peace River, there's so much commonality between us that we could work together to ensure that there's sufficient quantity and quality water on the Peace River going forward. They'll have data on the upper end of the Peace River, and we have the data on the southern end and in the middle. And so together, I think that it'll make sense for the co-op and the authority to work together going forward and come up with an interlocal agreement that kind of has that put together. Just in an outline format, and we're expecting to be able to bring that back to you for the February board meeting, your February board meeting, which I think is Pat, is it the 5th?
Yes.
Yep, it's a February 5th. And that's, once that's in place, the idea was we'll have this informational tie together, and there won't be any more of these potential, type of disputes. They'll be well vetted, they'll know what we're doing, we'll know what they're doing, and then we'll both work together in hopes with the district to get an adjustment to the minimum flow level that may increase the amount of water. The scientific information is being generated that would be available for a maximum day in the future from the lower Peace River.
Okay, let me slow things down a little bit. First of all, our next meeting, just for a record, is Wednesday, February 6th. Next, if anyone has questions for Doug, we'll go to those, but he'll then determine whether the question requires a shade leak.
Right.
Okay, so, Commissioner Dammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of clarifications, and you sort of spoke to them already, Doug, is in section 8, you know, the page 8 of the agreement, it talks about within 6 months establishing this coordinating committee.
Yes.
So the interlocal will speak to that.
It will. The coordinating committee,
In the composition of that committee.
well, the coordinating committee itself is a little larger, and that's why it's in the settlement. So it involves more people than just the co-op and potentially Lakeland. We left that open in the points of agreement to foreign governments to participate. But in the interlocal, we're going to have the ability for the two entities, both the cooperative and the regional water, us, to be able to manage that. So provide the locations, set the meetings, and those sort of things, so that it's, it's more, it's been a little unwieldy if we had to set an agenda and set the meeting dates every single time, so we're gonna try to come up with a common meeting date, the common way of holding them.
I like the scope, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think it looks really good. It's a great idea. Also, I see within a year, we have to jointly petition the district for whether we want more water.
Yes.
How are we going to accomplish that? I guess that's a question for Pat.
Well,
Do we have the work underway now to be able to?
right, so the process, like typical petitioning is like what's happening here, but petition for rulemaking is really a request. The district, there's no litigation involved in it, so what you do is you say, we put together a package, just like you were talking about, from the information that we already have about minimum flow level, and the district is in the process right now of reevaluating the minimum flow of the lower piece. So the idea is they'll probably be coming around to have their own rulemaking by about 2020. So the theory is that we'll just petition and rulemaking, and then we'll be looking at how is it that there could potentially be more water available than 400 CFS out of the Peace River for potentially for potable or permitted use. And one of the ways it's been discussed, mainly by me, so the scientific community may not be there, is that, when we look at and I had through Kevin, I was able to look at the flows of the river and looking at the minimum flow level draft study that's out. And what it shows is, right now we've got a time period for our biggest block. It starts on June 26th in wet season and then goes through October. But within that wet season, there's an even higher river flow period. So right now our block starts when the river's at 625 CFS. That there's a period where it's above 1,000 CFS for about a month and a half to 2 months. So one of the potentials is maybe creating an additional block where you can take more water during these high flows, where the issue for the estuary at that point is not more fresh water. The fresh water actually becomes somewhat toxic, because it blows all the fish out of the bay. So at that point, it wouldn't create any problems ecologically to be able to take more water. But there's other smarter people than me looking at this. Tony Janicki works for us on this issue, and they'll be getting together, and they've got other people who have looked at these issues and trying to come up with a way, and that's what we'll put into a petition. But I'd say that petition is a request. The district's not bound to rulemaking because we filed a petition. It's still the choice of their board.
And one more clarification.
Sure.
And if we are successful with the effort with the cooperative to increase that flow, proportionately then it would be distributed. It would be based on the ratio of 210 over 258 for us and 48 over 258 for them.
Yes.
That's how we would do it.
Yes, and I had to have an engineer explain to me what that would mean. So, but the bottom line is, and I say this, that's what we can ask for. In other words, that doesn't bind the district.
That's right.
Okay, just want to make sure it was clear.
That would be how we would.
Yes, yes. So the agreement then limits both of us to being able to ask for that pro rata percentage amount.
If we just can't work it out anyway.
Yes, if we can't work it any other way. And we're really hopeful that within a year we'll have a working relationship so that will be easier to work out. And quite frankly, we've asked for the water that we need right now. So, you know, within a year or 2 years, I'm not sure unless Mr. Coates and Mr. Lehman come back in with the idea on the board wants to like add another reservoir or something like that within the next 50 years, that we won't need any more water. But the issue may be, I don't know, your communities are booming right now. So it's hard to tell a year from now what we might be looking at as a potential growth in water demand in the future. But I don't think there'll be anything immediate that we'll be doing. But if we do, you're right, as a last resort, we've got the percentage breakdown.
Good deal. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Just as a comment, I think, Doug, you and your firm and your staff, and Pat, you and our group and our staff, I mean, this has been one heck of an effort, brought to a quick, calm, relatively peaceable resolution, and you need to be commended for that. When this first started, I don't know that there was anyone who was going to think that it would end as nicely and as quickly as it did. So thank you all and your staffs from us. Any other comments? With that, we're going to need a motion on the regular agenda, item number 1.
That's correct. A motion to approve and execute the settlement is what I'm looking for.
Mr. Chairman, so moved. Well, we're all moving that. I'll second, if you need a second.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Trace, second by Commissioner Dougherty, I believe that was the order. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? We'll give it a long time. No opposed, chair votes aye, and that moves forward with a 4-0 approval. Let's have board member comments. And again, no public comment cards, so board member comments.
Just like to say everybody Merry Christmas and we have a safe, happy holiday.
Perfect.
Same for me. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you next year.
Pretty much, son. Drive careful.
Well,
No
we said-
texting and driving.
That's right. And happy holidays to everybody and all our staffs, and just have a great, great holiday. Thank you. Next board meeting, February 6th, a Wednesday. That's right. Well, no, yes, we're adjourned.
No drama.
Yeah.